There's a new release from Pretty Pink Posh and it is as cute as it can possibly be. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll be sharing a part of the Pretty Pink Posh release because there are a ton of adorable new baby supplies and I want to be sure to focus on all of those in today's video. But there are other supplies in this release for celebrations like weddings, graduations, 4th of July, and I want to make sure that those get focused on as well. So I'll be sharing those in a video that will be coming next week. But for now, let's flip through the new baby supplies from Pretty Pink Posh. First up, there are 4 new packs of shaker beads. First, we have the Spring Pop shaker beads. Great colors. I love the pop of blue in there. Next, we have the Sweet Dreams shaker beads. Again, really pretty mint in that one as well with the pink. Then Spring Breeze shaker beads. And this last pack, Celebration shaker beads, I'll be using in the video next week. The other 3 I'll use today. Let's move on to the stamps and dies. First up, we have Baby Basic stamps and dies. You get a onesie and lots of accessories. This could be used in conjunction with another stamp set, but I used it all on its own, and I'll show you how to really just use all of these little images together later on in the video. I love that the onesie comes with a stripe option. You could use it open or with the stripes, and of course the dies will cut out all those little images. You get a die for the blocks as well. This is the Baby Animals stamps and dies. This is such a sweet stamp set. There's a cat with a baby kitten, a dog with a baby puppy, rabbits, and little ducks. So I also like that that baby script is able to be cut out with a coordinating die. So that's why I love getting the dies with these. This is the Stacked Squares dies. Next up, we have the Baby Rattle shaker dies. Now, in this video, I am sharing all new baby shaker cards. So this die is made specifically to make a shaker card. I'll show you how easy it is. Next up is the Baby Mug Editions dies. This works in conjunction with the original die set from Pretty Pink Posh, the Winter Mug. This is the Onesie shaker dies. Again, this die set will perfectly make a shaker, and I'll show you how. This is the Eyelet Squares dies. I'm going to use one of these to make a shaker too, even though these are meant more for layering. This is the Sentiment Strip Stamps Occasions. This has both new baby as well as happily ever after, congratulations, happy anniversary, happy wedding wishes, cheers to the happy couple, so lots of options there. This is the layered onesies stencils. So you can see how these stencils come together to make adorable onesies. That's the baby word stencil and then the layered baby wreath stencils. Now let's use those supplies to make some cards. As I mentioned, all 5 of these cards will be new baby cards, and they will also be shaker cards. But we'll start with the background of the card, and for that I'm using the layered stencils of the onesies. So I have the first stencil down on an A2 piece of white cardstock, and I have the cardstock stuck to my 8.5 by 8.5 waffle flower grip mat, and the stencil sticks around that cardstock because the grip mat is made of a high-grade silicone which holds both in place without adhesive at all. I'm using waffle flower detail blending brushes because there will be some of these options that I want to have in different colors. I thought these little hearts in the blueprint sketch was so much fun on the pink onesies. So once that's all colored, I'll just peel that off of the grip mat and let it kind of sit for a second so I don't smudge any of the ink. Now I have everything cut out from the onesie shaker dies. So I have the background here. I have a base onesie that I cut out in a plain pink cardstock. And then I have 2 pieces of fun foam that I cut out with the base and that outline. So this will be the foam that I will layer up to create the shaped shaker. So liquid adhesive all around the back of that fun foam die cut out. And then I'll place liquid adhesive all around the top of that fun foam because I want to add a second layer to the fun foam. This way I have plenty of room for my shaker goodies inside. Although with shaker beads, you often don't need as much height as you think because they're small enough and they roll so well, you don't need a ton of room inside. Now I'll take the frame that I created with the pink cardstock and place it on a piece of acetate that I cut out with the onesie shape. And there's this cute little ruffle collar that I cut out of white cardstock. I'll adhere that down. And there are also elements that you can put on the onesie itself. I chose a piece of blue cardstock that would match the hearts in the background. And now these Spring Pop shaker beads have that blue tucked into the rest of the light colors, and I thought that was perfect for this card. Once again, liquid adhesive all around the foam. The reason why you don't want to miss any spots at all is because those shaker beads will try and get out if you let them. So I'm using my Sweet Petunia Precision Glue Press to make sure I get a little bit of liquid adhesive all around that shape. I stamped Welcome Little One, that's from the sentiment strips of the occasion stamps, and I cut it out with the sentiment strip dies and added it to the bottom of the onesie. How much fun is a new baby shaker card? Well, let's make another one. We'll start again with the background, and I have the baby words stencil on an A2 piece of white cardstock on the 8.5 by 8.5 grip mat. I'm using the new Picket Fence paper glaze glass in sea glass blue, and I've placed a bunch of it at the top of the stencil, and then I'll use a scraper to get a nice even consistency across the entire card front. And I'll carefully lift this up with my spatula. I often smudge when I lift with my finger, so I've learned to use the spatula. This time I'm using the winter mug for the shape of the shaker of the card, and the Fruit Mug Editions dies has the little cutout that turns the mug into a shaker window. Now these are the Baby Mug Editions dies, which have lots of accessories and elements to use and die cut and layer those die cuts so that you can create some fun elements for your mug. I have the little duckling, which the die comes with a little beak and an eye all in one die. I have the blocks, I have a onesie, I have a little safety pin which comes in layers, the rattle comes in layers, so there's lots that you can do just by cutting out multiple colors of cardstock. I die cut a large eyelet square out of vellum, and I'm placing the base of the mug down on that vellum and then placing liquid adhesive behind the mug and placing that onto that really pretty baby stenciled background. This way you won't see the adhesive, and the vellum will tone down the background a little bit so that our mug can really stand out. I'm running a piece of foam, which is foam lines from waffle flour, around the shape of the mug. The lines are pretty thin, so I think they'll work even with that die cut window mug. And I'm really careful to just make sure that they really match up at the ends so that there are no open gaps or spaces where those shaker beads could come out. This is that Spring Breeze shaker beads collection, and it's so cute and such a pretty color. It really goes nicely with the blues and yellows that I chose for this card. I'll peel off those protective layers on the foam lines and then place down my window on top. And now I get to have fun with the accessories. I popped up the little duckling on the side and tucked some elements into the mug itself, which you can do because there is a die cut part of that mug top. Then I have the bottle and the blocks at the bottom. I decided to add that little duckling, which you can cut out as a shaker shape. I decided to use that to decorate the rattle. Now I'll just tuck a little bit of liquid adhesive behind all of those pieces that I tucked into the mug to make sure they stay put. There's dies that cut out 3 little bubbles for your duckling, and I'm coloring them with the lightest color of BG Copic markers, BG 40s, and then adding a slightly darker color just for the edge to make a little shadow there. And next I'll add a little bit of white paint pen on top of that. So I really love how these bubbles turned out. They're so cute and they add such a nice touch to the top of the duck. You can see the blocks have ABC on them, but there's also a 1, 2, 3 you could cut out. And then I used the sentiment strips to create an "It's a Boy" sentiment at the top. For the next shaker card, I'm using the layered baby wreath stencils for the background. So I'll place the first stencil down on some white cardstock once again and use some Distress Oxide inks and some waffle flower detail blending brushes. Those smaller blending brushes allow me to have different colors for each of those shapes. So I have a really cute color combination of pink bears, yellow ducks, blue rattles, pink bows and bottles. Just a really fun way to create multicolor images by just using some smaller brushes and a bunch of different colors of ink. And you can repeat your colors. You don't have to use different colors every single time, but it is nice to have that variety of color in the background instead of just using one large blending brush for each stencil. So now we have some of those details like the little duck's eye and beak, and that's where those tiny brushes really come in handy. I don't want everything black or brown for the bear's eyes and nose, but I do want those elements to be those colors so that they work perfectly on that background. This time we're using the Rattle shaker dies. Again, I mentioned that this die set makes a shaker really easily. So you cut out the little kind of handle of the rattle here, and I'm having that at an angle. That's why I'm trying to figure out where the top of the rattle is going to go so that I can make sure that everything fits on this card. Then you place the base of that rattle. It's just a circle. And next you create a frame, and that's from that stitch die that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. And that you will cut out of fun foam once again, and make sure again to place plenty of liquid adhesive, not that it oozes out the side, but that it really connects and there's no gaps in the line of liquid adhesive. So I cut out 2 pieces of fun foam. I have the little bow that I cut out of pink cardstock, and you can see the little hearts. There's a die that has 3 little hearts on the left-hand side. That time I actually used them to make little shaker goodies and then added some of the shaker beads with them as well. I also created a frame out of the same mint colored cardstock and placed that right on top with the acetate on the back so that it will trap those shaker goodies inside. I wanted to add another sentiment to that little scallop that goes across the rattle, but I wanted the sentiment to be curved as well. So I added the sentiment to the door of the Misty, and then I curved up the edges, and then I grabbed the die to see if they were too curved, and they were. So then I took a little bit of the curve out of it, straightened it up a little bit, but I still want it to be a slight arc. And this time I think it will work perfectly. So once that stamp is in place, it's going to stay stuck to the door. I did stamp it with Versamark ink and pour some white embossing powder on top, and then heat set that. And then once it's nice and cool, just put that die back in place on top and cut that out. And now I can take some liquid adhesive and adhere it to the one that I already had on the rattle, because I came up with the sentiment idea after the fact, of course. So for the main sentiment, I did use the sentiment strips and then cut it out with the sentiment strip dies, and I'll just pop that up on some small foam squares. Again, another cute little shaker card. These are so much fun to make. I think you will love them. If you want something a little easier, how about cut out an eyelet rectangle out of white cardstock or any color cardstock that you're using, and place a little bit of liquid glue all around the opening of the back of that cardstock. Then place that onto an A2 piece of acetate. Next, take a foam tape and double it up so that you have a good dimension, and then start placing it down around the edges of this base that you're going to use. So I have a very thin foam tape. That's why I'm able to place it right on the edge and it won't show. Once you have the tape all connected, then place your shaker goodies right inside. So I'm using up that spring pop. I know I'm gonna have to get some more. I really love the pop of blue in that. But I decided to add a few of the other colors as well to really make this a ton of different colors in this shaker card. Since it's such a big shaker window, I thought it'd be fun to have a whole bunch of different colors and kind of mix them all together. Next, I'll take all of the linings of that foam tape and carefully peel it off. This is where it can get messy if you get a little too aggressive with taking off those liners. The shaker beads will go everywhere on your desk. Please be warned. So just be very gentle with that. And then place the window right on top so that you can stick it down and it will hold those shaker goodies in place. Next, I took some of the images from the Baby Basics stamps and dies, stamped, colored them in, and die cut them out, and I'm creating a frame all around this shaker card with those images. Here's the little onesie that I stamped, and instead of doing one color of stripes, I did little ink cubes so that I could do 2 stripes for every color of the rainbow. I got up to green, and now I'll pop that up on the front of the window. I decided to have the blocks be more whimsical rather than straight. And then again, last minute, I wanted a sentiment on the onesie itself. So I put it in my MISTI and I'm inking up the stamp, and I'm very carefully closing the door and then just lightly touching that stamp, because remember, this card has a ton of dimension. So if I squeeze too hard, it's gonna mush and really ruin the effect. It came out perfect, but you have to be really gentle with that if you don't think of stamping it first. For this next card, I'm using the stacked squares dies, and this time we'll make 3 different shakers on one card. But they'll be such basic shapes like squares that it'll still be super, super easy. So I have the stacked squares cut out of an A2 piece of white cardstock, and I'm placing liquid adhesive on the back of this panel that I've die cut those squares out of. So each square is going to be its own window. I've cut a piece of acetate down so that I could fit it right behind the openings of the squares, but I didn't want to waste an entire A2 piece of acetate, so it's just a strip. Next, I doubled up the foam adhesive once again. Now, I want the shaker goodies to stay right behind the windows. I don't want them going all the way across the card. That's why I have that foam strip right in the center there. Then I'll add strips in between each of the windows, and that will allow me to use different shaker goodies in each of the windows, and they'll stay in their own place. I did add some more foam on the left-hand side. I didn't want that part of the card to get smushed down. So first I have the cotton candy confetti that is from the spring release. I also have the Sweet Dreams shaker beads and the springtime shaker beads down at the bottom there. So you can see I was a little too rough when I pulled off the backing of that foam, and some of the beads got on the foam, so you have to put those in so that the foam really connects with the cardstock. Then make sure you press down each of the spots to make sure, again, that the foam is connecting with the cardstock to keep those shaker beads especially inside that little shaker window. Now I have the baby animals that I stamped, colored, and die cut. I have 3 of the sets, and so I'll pop up each of those next to a shaker window, and then the set also has 2 different sized hearts that you can color in, so I did that as well. And I have 3 of the sentiments from the set. And so I'll stamp all 3 of them and cut them out with the same exact type of sentiment strip die, and then use tape runner behind them and place them right over the center of each of the shaker windows. So each window has its own shaker goodies, it has its own animal pairing, and then it has its own sentiment strip. I think that consistency really pulls the card together. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with these 3 shaker windows, and I really like how it's turning out with the little animal pairings and the different sentiments. I did decide to add the baby sentiment, which die cuts out because I love the way it looks. It's script and so pretty. So that's kind of unique to that spot, which breaks out of that complete grid. And then again, you have all 3 different shaker goodies, which really looks so cute in one card. Can you believe the cuteness of this release? I just thought it's so much fun, and there's so much available for different kinds of congratulations and new baby cards. I'd love to hear if something caught your eye. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget that I'll have another video coming out next week with the rest of the Pretty Pink Posh supplies, so be sure to subscribe down below so you can make sure to watch it as soon as it's available. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Rest of the pity. Come on now. Some attention in this. Oh,